Hi everyone, my name is Anna and welcome to today's message, A Snake in the Garden from Genesis 3:5. For God knows that in the day you eat from it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Now I've been reading Genesis in the Bible in Hebrew translated to English, and I have developed a curiosity in reading Genesis about the snake in the Garden of Eden. I had a thought about it, and I would like to share it with you, specifically Genesis 3:5. In this verse, we witness a critical moment in the story of creation. It's about the deception that led to the fall of humanity. The serpent speaks to Eve and presents fruit from the tree of knowledge as something desirable. The verse contains the phrase, "Your eyes will be opened," indicating an awareness or an enlightenment, suggesting that if she eats the fruit, she will become like God. The idea of becoming like God is what causes the temptation. The serpent's words are significant in that it persuades Eve away from God's warning about eating the fruit. It suggests that God is withholding some kind of valuable information from her because the fruit comes from the very tree that holds the knowledge that will make her like God. It highlights the fact that we humans are curious and that sometimes our curiosity, well, it can get us into trouble. And we can be easily tempted when we choose to live outside the plan of God and what He has for us to do. Instead of leaning on Him, we try to lean on our own understanding and our own tainted version of it at that. The knowledge of good and evil is necessary in human life to avoid being cleverly distracted from God. And there will be times in our lives where our pride and our ego will try to control our lives. And we'll be vulnerable to temptation because we feel deprived of what we think we deserve. Not what we do deserve, but what we think we do. We won't see the blessings that are right in front of us every single day. You see, happiness in this life is subject to human interpretation. And as a human, if you decide something apart from God's will for you, you are being deceived. God warns us about temptation and the path of destruction and how it causes us humans, and it tries to entice us. And however foolish it seems to be, that anyone might think that they were equal to God anyway. However, some people fail to realize that we have limited human insight, and we've been carefully designed this way. But I'm going to put a spin on it today. Now, we've heard this story through the simple explanation of good versus evil. And in this story, the serpent is temptation and spiritual deception. The word for serpent in the Hebrew means diviner or nahash, which might signify a different interpretation of a snake. Diviner is simply a noun from the form of divine, and divine being from or like God. Now, I'm tempted to believe that perhaps the serpent is not a serpent at all. Perhaps the serpent is a fallen angel, the devil, and the devil is described in the Bible as a fallen angel. The serpent is deceit and causes betrayal by tempting Eve to eat the fruit. Now in Isaiah, it is snakes that guard the throne of God. So if this snake was at one time a divine being, a fallen angel, who wishes to do harm, wouldn't this snake fit this story? I mean, the lesson in Genesis is not that everything is in the interest of God's divine plan. Sometimes those we trust, well, they aren't trustful at all. And how many times in life have you done something or trusted someone and them been led astray? How many serpents have led you away from God and off the divine path that was set for you? Well, now that I've made my point, let's take a little closer look. You see, those serpents in Isaiah, they were connected directly to God, guardians of divine truth. Those were not ordinary serpents, but serpents who were allowed to be in the presence of God. So if the serpent in the Garden of Eden was once a fallen angel who had direct access to God and chose to betray, what does that tell us about betrayal? Well, perhaps this serpent is betraying for a different reason. Perhaps it is because the serpent is jealous, because God's plan for humanity makes it inferior, when it was once guarding and allowed to be in God's presence. You see, Satan fell because of his desire for power. And if that serpent is really Satan trying to stop the creation of God's divine plan for humanity, wouldn't it make sense that temptation would ruin that plan? Now, this is much like us as humans and how we are tempted by sin. We interfere in the plan of God in our life. We're jealous and egotistical, and sometimes we hurt others to elevate ourselves. Most temptation doesn't come from others, but from what we desire in our own heart. And even those we trust can't always be trusted not to hurt us. Following this path leads to certain destruction. But what if it is not what we think? What if it really is a fight over good and evil, light and dark, life and death? You see, the serpent's true nature is to cause temptation. And when we act this way, we aren't as concerned about the loss of what we have, but about destroying what is already good. We're given a choice. Follow the deceit of the serpent or follow the truth of God. We get to choose victory through divine grace. So why would the serpent be so determined to ruin God's divine plan, I wondered? Is it jealousy? Is it because God gave humans a higher power on earth than a fallen angel? Because humans are made in the likeness of God? Is it because the serpent perhaps thinks humans are taking its rightful place? What it thinks it deserves? Perhaps this temptation is really about manipulation, trying to trick Eve into surrendering her place in God's plan. The temptation to trap Eve into trapping Adam and falling from grace like the serpent did, who might actually be a fallen angel. It seems this is more than just temptation, but a designed effort to stop the divine plan and grace of God. Is it starting to make sense? You see, the serpent is full of deception and lies, the very opposite of what it was originally created to be, the guardian of the divine. And that has become now the enemy in disguise. The serpent represents the spiritual warfare that we face every single day in our lives, the struggle between good and bad, light and dark. The serpent is really a symbol of how deceit twists lies against what is pure in Christ. A symbol of the battle that exists in our heart every single day. You see, temptation comes in many forms and twists itself into that serpent that seeks to serve its own desire. Just because something or someone looks attractive doesn't mean that they are in God's will for us. We are called to turn away from the snakes in our lives and allow them to slither away by their own destruction before they take us with them. So let us consider this lesson in Genesis as a lesson in God's divine power to save humanity from the grasp of the devil and to keep a good handle on our human curiosity. Because of his love for us, we are forgiven. The snake is left to crawl on its belly for eternity. So let's remember the blessings of what we already have and not, my friends, what we think we deserve. In a world where you could be anything, choose to be love. Love is the answer. Please like and share this post. And if you have a question for Dear Anna, please send it by direct message to our Facebook page. Questions are answered anonymously. Thank you for your donations to My Divine Mission and for helping me to keep my message alive. I'll see you next time.